Greetings, family. It's Empress D. Obviously, I'm here in nature. Can't stop. I have to. I have to do this every day, right? Um, yeah. I hope. I hope I've inspired you guys to do this every day as well. Um, at least try. I hope I've inspired you to do it a couple days. That's the whole point. I'm just trying to share with you guys to encourage you guys and show you guys kind of uh, what I've discovered, right? Because I feel like everybody can shape their life and create their life to how they want it to be. And I feel like coming out in nature is one of the ways to help you do that. Okay? At least that's what's worked for me. So, I really want to just point out how nowadays our world is so different than it was even 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Our world is so different than it is now, right? And it's so funny how, and I kind of was sitting here thinking and why? How did the world become so different? How do attitudes and thoughts and viewpoints, how do they shift? How do they shift in a collective of people, right? I guess maybe I should be more clear. So let me use an example. Um, I need to think of it, I don't want anybody to be offended by what I'm speaking about because it's not meant to be. I just want to just speak about how attitudes have changed, about certain things, but not about everything. How attitudes have changed in the last 30 years. So, 30 years ago, those that are part of the sexual minority community, they weren't accepted into society. They weren't fully integrated into society. People weren't always nice to them and that kind of thing. But in the last 30 years, attitudes towards that community have changed drastically, right? So, and listen, I'm not trying to throw shade or say either one way is wrong and one way is right, or anything like that. All I'm trying to remark on is how as a collective, and I'm going to even be as broad as saying in North America, our viewpoint on the sexual minority community has our collective viewpoint has changed drastically, right? Right now, people are so accepting and tolerant and loving towards people that are different. And listen, I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm also not saying it's right. But what I am saying is that attitude that we have now is so different than the attitude that we had 30 years ago. And so I'm sitting here thinking, how did that attitude change in such a large amount of people? How did that attitude change? Right? How does a whole group of people think differently about another group of people, right? And I figured it out, and it's by education, and it's by entertainment, right? It's not too long ago that in schools they've started teaching about alternative sexual lifestyles. And of course in the media, right? 30 years ago, we wouldn't see the things on regular evening TV that we see now, right? In terms of a lot of things, but for one, alternative sexual lifestyles, right? I don't want to use the word glorified, but they're depicted quite commonly in mainstream media, right? And so I was thinking that's the way to change the minds of the collective, right? It's to teach it in the schools, get the youth, and also teach each family every night as they have their TV on, right? I hope we realize that, family, that our collective viewpoints and thoughts are shaped by the influences outside of us all too often. And I think it's very obvious with this pandemic, right? Because the viewpoint of the collective has certainly no doubt been shaped by what we see in the media, right? So family, just food for thought, right? So we have to be mindful, right? If we know this, if we know that our thoughts are being shaped by not only our thoughts, our viewpoints, our perspectives, all being modified and shaped by what we take in externally, right? So the shows that we watch, the music that we listen to, the books that we read, even the people we entertain, right? Those all shape our perspectives. And so we have to be mindful of the perspectives, of the outside influences that we take in, right? School is a big one. School is a big one. You know, it's whoever is planning the curriculum and saying what goes in that curriculum and what is being fed to our children's minds are essentially molding and shaping every child's mind, right? With what and how they view things or what their perspective is, right? It's really crazy when we think about it. And I think, life is too busy not to be quiet and think about it. But that's what happens when you come out in nature. Your brain can think about all kinds of things that you don't usually think about when you're busy hustling and bustling around, right? And so that's why I encourage everybody to take a few minutes out every day, just to be by themselves and with themselves, and give yourself an opportunity to think, right? And ponder things and ask yourself questions and try to make connections and try to know ourselves, right? The whole point of being on this planet, being incarnated here, especially right now at this time, I think that it's pretty clear that that's the whole point, right, family? Anyway, I hope everybody's well. I hope everybody's taking care of themselves. An absolute must right now. Absolute must. Mental health, especially. People need to be taking care of their mental health. So many different ways to do that, right? Exercising helps. Coming out in nature helps. Meditating helps. Being mindful helps, right, family? Mindful, we just talked about it, of what you put in your environment. Anyway, in addition to taking care of yourself, I hope that everybody is deliberately doing things every day to improve their situation. And so that your future self is going to look back and say, oh my gosh, I'm so grateful to my former self for making the decision to implement these changes, right? So I hope that's happening for all of you. And for those of you that take the time to listen to this message, I really, really am grateful for that. And I love and I value each and every one of you. Okay, family? One love.